Alright, I'm going to show you now how to use the push button switch so that it will do something based on whether or not the push button switch is pressed. The push button switch is located on port 3. It's located right here, and you can see the 3 next to it, which means it's connected up to port 3. And let's see here, we'll have it so that it, let's have it light up all of the LEDs as soon as I press the button. So, to get going, we get to our programming editor here. Alright, and now you can look on your sheet, let's see, the icon sheet that I gave to you. This is a nice little helpful tool that shows you when you click on one of these main icons up here, it'll take you into the subcategory where you can select different icons, and these are the ones that we're using for everything that we're going to be working on. So we just got done going through these commands, output commands, which we can use to make the ports high or low to turn on the LEDs. Now we're going to do the if commands. So when you click on the if, you're going to have some choices, and we want to make some decisions based on whether or not the button's pressed, or if the button is pressed or not. So to start, we're going to press if, or click on if. Now we're going to look at these pins here, and really the only difference between each of these 4 pins up here is just where the yeses and nos are located. So it really doesn't matter what you use. I'm going to pick this first one right here and plop that in. Now on our PicAxe here, again, we're on port 3. That's where the push button is located, on port 3. Now you could say call it the port or the pin, however you'd like to. In the program here it says pin. So what we want to do is we want to ask a question. Is pin 3 or port 3, is it pressed or not? Now if a button's pressed, that would be a true statement, which should be equal to a 1. A 1 means yes, and a 0 would mean no, or false. Okay? So let's change this first of all to say pin 3. So we're saying, in English, what this is asking is pin 3 pressed? Is it equal to 1? Okay? And if the answer is yes, it'll follow this path. If the answer is no, it'll follow this path. So is the button being pressed? Well, right now I'm not going to be pressing it, so we want it to follow this route. No. And we only want the LEDs to come on if the button's pressed. So let's say that it's not pressed. Well, question, do we want the lights on or off if the button's not pressed? Well, the answer is we want them off. So we want to make sure that they are off, so we'll select lows. We want all 3 LEDs to stay off. Right click and see. So we'll say low 0. This one will have, say, low 1 to turn off the yellow, and this one low 2 to turn off the green. Okay. Now one other thing I'll show you here, you can add comments, okay, or labels if you'd like to call them that, so that you kind of remember what things are doing. So I'm going to use a label here. I don't know why that keeps popping up. Click label, and I'm going to have this say turn off the red LED. So this is doing nothing to the program. This is just for my benefit, so I remember what's going on. And then I'll label this one too. This is more important to do when you have larger programs, because if you come back to them, weeks later or even months later, you might not remember what the program does. So having little comments in here can really help. Actually, low 2 is the green. So this is incorrect. So let me erase it. I'll click the arrow, click it, click delete. Maybe I can change it. No, I'll just delete it. I'll just add turn off yellow. So those are comments. All right, so back to the program. All right, so is pin 3 equal to 1? Well, I'm not pressing it, so it's not equal to 1. It's equal to 0. So the answer to this question is no, it's not equal to 1. So it turns off the red, off the yellow, off the green, and then we're going to have it go back to the beginning, where it'll ask the question once again. Is the button being pressed or not? Well, if I'm not pressing it, it's going to stay in this loop forever and ever and ever. Well, now let's say that I do press the button. If I press the button, that's going to make the port a high, or a 1. So pin 3 would be equal to 1 if I press the button. So if I ask the question, is the port or is pin 3 equal to 1? Well, if I'm pressing the button, the answer is going to be yes. So it'll follow this track. And then what we want it to do is turn on the LEDs if I'm pressing. So I'm going to plop down 3 highs. We'll make this high 0, high 1, and high 2. And then we have to add our lines. So it'll follow this path if pin 3 equals 1. And then after it turns on each of the lights, we want it to go back to the very beginning, and it'll ask the question again. So as long as I'm holding the button down, pin 3 will be equal to 1. It'll follow this path. If I let go of the button, pin 3 equals 0, and it'll follow this path. Okay? If I simulate this, and let me first set this to a low delay. Okay. So if I simulate this, here's what it would look like. Oh, shoot. Sorry. Go back to... appears I've locked my computer up here. Go ahead and program that for yourself real quick. That should look something like this. Okay. If I press the button, it's going to follow. Not working. Maybe this connection isn't made. Let's try that. Well, my simulator is not working properly. Go ahead and let's program the real deal and see what happens here. Okay, and yeah, when I program the actual board, it seems to be working just fine. I'm not quite sure what the heck's going on with this simulator. You can see when I run the simulator, it's showing right now, it's staying in this loop right here, that the button is equal to 0. Now, if I look here, when I press the button in 3, I can see right here that when I do press it up here that I'm activating it, but for some reason it's not acknowledging that pin 3 is equal to 1. And I don't have an answer for you right now, but let's not worry about that because you should have the real thing in front of you.